Hello guys and welcome back to The Apprentice, and we are on the penultimate episode. First of all, I really didn't expect The Apprentice to be a hit on this channel. It has done kind of well in most of the ratings. Some of them have been creeping up to 1,000. Some of them have been getting over 200. So I'm just really grateful for the support. But we are on the second to last episode, the interviews, and I gotta say, the interviews were a lot sort of like than I was expecting. I also didn't realize that they went to go visit all of the sort of experts. I thought they only got one each, but boy, this was genuinely a gripping episode. I really didn't know how to respond. I gotta say, I have some thoughts and feelings about this, and like I've spoken before about how this show is rigged, and this episode kind of proves it. But it is what it is. We are going to move on. So thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you guys are enjoying the content. We are on our way to 900 subscribers. We are a quarter of the way there. From 800 to 900, that is, not like in total. But we are making fantastic progress, and that's all down to you guys. So if you are enjoying the content and you want to subscribe, join the family, join the ranters, and yeah, give me your thoughts down in the description. No, the comment section, and I'll see you guys in the episode. So I'm going to talk person by person and then give like an overview at the end, talking about who got fired, etc, etc. We're going to start with Trey, and Trey's business proposal was a testosterone drink, like, you know, those sort of like ginseng shots that you can get, or like the ginger shots or things like that. It's basically one of those, but designed to increase your testosterone levels. It's an interesting idea and it's an interesting concept, but it is heavily flawed in the sense of like, he didn't make it very clear until the end that this idea was a wellness brand that was being launched with this drink, rather than the drink being the whole business proposition. So that wasn't entirely clear. He met with Claude first. Claude basically was like, this business plan is woefully inadequate, and I was like, wow, that's big words. Apparently there were no numbers whatsoever. There's no sort of projections in terms of figures, no profit loss margins, etc, etc. It really does feel like Trey didn't really do his homework, and it was a little bit of a shame, because when he went to go meet Linda, Linda was like, yo, where's the scientific evidence that this stuff even works? And obviously Trey was like, well, there has been studies done, and Linda was like, well, where's that in your business proposition? You needed that in here to be like, yo, this stuff actually works, and that's what's going to make Lord Sugar want to invest in this product. And I just felt so bad for him, because it's very clear that he's got no experience in this market. And he genuinely does think the fact that he's sold loads and loads of records in like the music industry means that he's going to be able to sell products to the public. Yeah, it's a tough one, because I actually think it's a decent idea, because this whole sort of like empowerment shot kind of thing, it is a growing market. It is something that I see on the shelves of supermarkets, like a ginger shot or like a vitamin B shot or something like that. And I look at them and I go, first of all, that sounds disgusting. But second of all, clearly it must be good for you, because it's packed full of vitamins and healthy stuff and stuff that's like properly designed. They're not going to put crap out on the shelves, do you know what I mean, that's not going to do anything for you. So I think there is like a business opportunity there, but I just don't think Trey came prepared enough. When it came to actually talking to Mike, I think was his name, he was basically like, Trey was like, I've got friends in the manufacturing industry. And Mike was like, well, have you gone to visit them? No. Like, have you got any costs? No. Okay, well, I've actually made your drink and like based on your specification, and he whipped out 2 mini bottles of this juice. And I was like, first of all, it's a very appetizing color. Some of them look genuinely grotty. This just looked like orange juice. Like, it did look quite good. But the issue was, it's an acquired taste. It's not something that everyone is going to want to get on board with. And Mike wasn't a fan of the taste, but Trey actually backed the whole thing. He was like, this is actually quite tasty. I like this. It's one of those things that really attacks the back of your throat. And I mean, I've had one or two before, and they're all right, but they're not my kind of cup of tea. And then Claudette was kind of like, yo, talking about your father, talking about your brother who's passed away. It was very emotional chat. I felt like Claudette really gave the emotional chat through everyone. But on the whole, I feel like Trey got absolutely grilled, and I think from his interviews it was very clear that they weren't gonna take him on, because every single person apart from Claudette, who we didn't see, was basically like, you are great, you are amazing, your product's shit though, we don't want your product. It felt like Dragon's Den. It was actually quite funny. But yeah, that was pretty much it. Paul was up next, and Paul's business proposition was scrubs that are special in some kind of way. I kind of zoned out when he was listing all the things that they're good for, but I was also like, this man is a dentist. He's a cosmetic dentist, and there's a lot of money in that industry. And the first thing that Linda said to him was, why have you not come up with a business proposition for cosmetic dentistry? Because that is a lucrative market. That is an interesting market that Lord Sugar might want to go into. But these scrubs, you've got no finalized products. You've got no specifics on manufacturing costs, how you're going to manufacture it, where you're going to source your materials from. You've got nothing along those lines. And I was thinking, oh God, how have you got all the way to the end of this competition and your business proposals are so heavily flawed? Is there genuinely anyone on this show, like in the history of this show, that has had a genuinely good business proposition that no one has found major flaws with? Because everybody had horrendous problems in this episode, and I just was sitting there going, if your guys' business propositions were bad, how bad were the rest of them? Because, Jesus, when talking to Claudette, she questioned, first of all, why have you sort of mentioned the fact that you can body pop on your like business proposal? And secondly, you've mentioned that you increased the value of your dentistry by like 4 times over a year. Why have you decided to make a new business rather than growing the one you've already got? That's a very good question. And then when it came to Claude was also questioning why he didn't go down the dental route, why he's going for this product, because what's the point of it? Why do we need these special scrubs? And then the icing on the cake of all of this was when he went to go talk to Mike, and Mike was like, these pictures of scrubs, they're not your scrubs, right? And Paul was like, no, I've taken those images off of Google and put our logo on as like an idea of what they'll look like. And Mike was like, well, you haven't mentioned that these are not your product, so this is very misleading. And I was sitting there going, no, Paul, what you playing at? What are you doing? God. Yeah, it was tough to watch, I can't lie. When we get on to Flo's business proposition was a recruitment company for senior financial consultants to be put into the private equity or something like that. I didn't understand it, first of all. It was explained to me, and there were a lot of words that just felt like buzzwords to me that I didn't know what they meant. And I guess it's a recruitment company for like senior consultants in the financial industry, I guess, is what it is. Which, like, is that is that like a lucrative industry? I don't know. Mike was questioning the name of the company, Hathor, and she was like, oh well, it's to do with the Greek goddess or god, I can't remember, or of this and that, and of equality, etc., etc. And he goes, well, did you know that there's already a company named this? And she went, no. And he went, well, you can't name yourself that. And I was like, oh, Jesus, Flo, why have you not done your homework? Flo, ah, frustrating is what that was. Then Linda was like, there's no evidence of the number of vacancies that you claim. You claim that there's 25% of vacancies, etc., etc. I don't actually remember exactly what she said, but she was claiming there was some kind of problem with the fact that there was no evidence backing up the claims she was making in her thing. And she was also using global numbers when this company will have to start off being UK based. So there's no point using global figures when that's not the market that we're working in, which again, I completely understand. Why was this included? Flo, you're better than this. What's going on? Then when it comes to Claude was questioning how you can possibly blow all of your money in 4 months. Because that is what the plan was. That's what her plan was saying, basically. Apparently, the staff costs in the first year would be 712,000. Bearing in mind, she's only getting 250,000 from Lord Sugar. Only getting 250,000. And she wants to spend almost triple that in just staff costs. As he said, you've aimed high, but you've set yourself up for failure here. Because if it works, it works. Wonderful. But there's a very high likelihood of it not working and you burning all that money. Literally. It's so frustrating because, like, these are some of the strongest people in the competition. And some of the, like, I've been genuinely sort of like, these are good business people. And then they come into this and it's like they crumble. Their whole business proposition is flawed. What's going on here? Then we come on to Phil. Now, Phil's proposition is basically just to expand his pie shops and just make them a little bit better, I guess. It's a good proposition, but the problem comes from the fact that it's an existing company. So, obviously, there's figures, there's expansive potential, but there's already a product there that is working. Apparently, according to Claude, there are no profit loss accounts in the business proposition. So how are we meant to know how much money the company's making per annum? But then it also confused me because later on there were definitely some knowledge of this, but apparently also he hasn't been able to see the accounts of his business for 6 months, and he couldn't come up with a genuinely good reason other than like the accountants that I use are like old-fashioned. I was like, what does that even mean? What is going on here? Also, apparently his shop claims that it was established in 1933, but it only opened in 2005, which is very, very misleading. And Paul was like, oh, I thought that was like, oh, when we started making the pies. And Mike was like, no, that's not what that means at all. And it was just a bit awkward. And then when he was talking to Claudette was like, oh, what's your family background? Like, oh, you must be very connected to your parents. It was a very cute conversation. You can tell that family means a lot to Phil. And yeah, it's nice that he feels that good. I gotta say, right, so when he was baking the pie earlier in the episode and he put a slice on the table, it looked awful. It did not look appetizing in the slightest. It kind of looked like it had dog food in the middle of it, which it probably didn't, but that's just what it looked like to me. And I probably wouldn't buy a pie from him. I'm sorry. They might be the best thing you've ever tasted, but visually, it's not making me want to buy one. Sorry. Anyway, the last thing I wanted to talk about was the fact that Linda was basically like, yo, I think you actually overexpanded. after COVID, and that's what's causing your profit loss at the moment. Because apparently business boomed during COVID and then has kind of crashed in this last year, and they're not really sure why, which is a little bit of a problem. So I think there's a decent proposition there. It's just basically I want money to fund this company and keep it going, and like expand it a little bit more. But also, I don't know. It's just a bit of a safe proposition. I wasn't enamored by it, I gotta say. Rachel was up last. Rachel is looking to expand her boutique fitness studios. There's been a lot of reports in the newspapers about how the fact that her fitness studios have never made a profit in the like years of since they've been open, and Claudette was basically like, how are you going to replicate like the magic that you claim to have in your gyms across multiple gyms, because clearly you're the one that's delivering the magic. How are you going to make sure that that like continues? And also your branding is really boring. Like it's completely like every other gym on the market. So where's the sort of like, where's the uniqueness here? And Rachel did do a good job of defending herself and being like, yo, I think this and this. And then when she was talking to Claude, he was basically like, yo, there's no accounts or figures here. I don't like, there's just a lot of losses and loans that you've been making. It seems like you've taken loans out from banks and this and that in order to fund an expansion that isn't quite warranted at this point in time. And I was like, oh no, Rachel, what you doing? What you doing? And then Linda was like, yo, what's going on with these membership levels? Because you're not making money in the way that other gyms are because you haven't got a subscription service or things like that. And what are you going to do during like dip months where people cancel because they're on holiday or things like that? Like, what are you going to do about that? And she just basically didn't have an answer to that. And then Mike, flipping heck, Mike, he basically was like, yo, have you even got this domain name? And she was like, no, I haven't. And he was like, well, I do. I've just purchased it. And she was like, oh, fuck. And then she was like, oh, well, maybe I could go with that one. And he went, I've got that one too. How much are you offering to me for this? I think she paid like 35 quid for it. But it's the point of like, she hasn't even got the domain names for some of her branches' websites. What's going on there? Rachel, I expected better from you. So, rather sadly, this brings us to the end of the episode where Trey and Flo were fired in the sort of first round of firing. I kind of saw it coming. I think they had pitches that I think were just, they are incredibly, how do I word this? They are incredibly investable people. Their propositions were not. And that is the problem here. I think if they'd have come up with a different strategy, a different business proposal, I think they'd have been fine. Then it came down to Paul, Rachel and Phil. I cannot believe Phil made top 3. I can't believe he made top 2. Because Paul basically came back into the room, was like, yo, actually I'm changing my whole plan to expand my cosmetic business, like my cosmetic dentistry business. And Lord Sugar was like, okay, well, we would be joint business partners across your whole business if I give you this money. And Paul basically went, yeah, I can't do that. I'm not doing that. It would be across like my new business, like my new offices that I would open up. And Lord Sugar was like, that's not good enough. You're fired. I think good on Paul for not being sort of strong-armed into giving away half of his company. He's clearly doing very well for himself. So I think that's good on him. But obviously, it has now allowed Phil into the final. But I also noticed that Lord Sugar chose the 2 people that already have pre-existing businesses and just want to expand. Which frustrates me because I think actually, what is the point of this show if it's not to invest in a new product, a new company these are pre-existing companies. What's the point in them? If you want to do that, go on Dragon's Den. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, bit disappointed, bit frustrated. Not really much I can do, but we'll have to wait until the final. I'll be interested. I know who wins, but I'll be interested to see how that plays out, because currently I think Phil's got the better business plan. Rachel's doesn't really seem interesting to me. I don't know. I feel like the food market's a lot better than the gym market. The gym market's dominated by the big names, so having like a boutique gym, I don't know. So that is all we've got time for today. I hope you guys enjoyed. We are going to be back in a couple of days with the finale, and then that is it for The Apprentice for this year. Thank you guys very, very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you are subscribing. We are on our way to 900. We are a quarter of the way from 800 there. So without much further ado, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys later. Keep on ranting. Bye now.